Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today we are here for my November wrap up and my December TBR. I am refilming this because I was in a rush when I filmed it the first time and I've missed out a lot of detail, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to refilm it. Hence why my November wrap up on TikTok / the video accompanying this on Shorts, I'm wearing a different top. Anyway, let's get into the 7 books I read in November first of all. I did spend a lot of November in a reading slump. I can't tell you why. The last book I read in October was Alchemized, and I don't think that book put me in a reading slump. I think I was already starting one when I read it. I think I just found I didn't really have... Why is this sleeve annoying me so much? I think I found I didn't have the mental capacity to really read and take in and appreciate what I was reading, and I found reading for a long time a struggle, and that was the main problem I had. And like I said when I did my October wrap up, I feel like I didn't appreciate Alchemized as much as I could have because I just didn't have the mental capacity, and unfortunately that just continued throughout November and was even worse. So the first book I read was Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. This book, it's not the original vampires, I think that's Nosferatu. But this book did inspire Dracula. I read An Education at Malice in September, which was loosely based around this book because we've got Camilla, Laura and De La Fontaine in that book. This is basically lesbian vampires, but you can tell it's written by a man. It's not very gay, I'll be honest with you. My biggest problem with this, aside from the fact it's definitely got that undertone of vampires are bad, this lesbian's a vampire, therefore lesbians are bad, and I obviously don't agree with that. It was written by a man, and in the dad's point of view, he was very much like, my daughter's beautiful, my daughter is stunning, my daughter was gorgeous. I'm like, we get it, please stop being weird about how pretty your daughter is, it's a bit weird. And then the other part was, oh my god, it was written so boring. Part of this I listened to, there's 2 audiobooks on Spotify, I don't know which one it was I listened to, I don't know who it was that voiced it, I didn't pay that much attention. The audiobook was fine, it helped me read this, but it emphasised how dry the writing is. It was so dull. Obviously it had that 1800s where there's words here that just don't need to be here, complicatedness that the English language used to be, but it also just was dry. It was so dull. Nothing was keeping you hooked in this. It was, yeah. And also it wasn't overly vampiric. So I don't know how this even, well, we'll get onto that. Part of me sees how Dracula took inspiration from this, but also part of me is like, there's not much vampire lore in this to take inspiration from. So I rated this at 2 stars. I do not recommend. I don't think it's good. If you want to read it because Dracula was inspired by it, then yeah. I mean, if you're going to read Dracula, then yeah, maybe read this beforehand just like I did. But on its own, it's not good. No, this is one of those classics where I just think it needs to stay in the past, and it doesn't hold up to today's standards of good writing and good storytelling and good anything, really. So then, over the course of the whole month, I literally read this from the 3rd to the 30th, I read Dracula. I mostly read this on my phone. I did buy myself this for my birthday, so I did read the last portion of this physically. The only difference is I haven't read all of the extra stuff in the beginning, the preface, the introduction, further reading, and I haven't read any of the appendixes. I only read the actual Dracula story, so I haven't read this full bit. This I've rated at 3 stars. This was not what I was expecting. I was expecting a horror. And when I was reading this, for some reason on my YouTube shorts, it kept coming up different clips from the movie Dracula: A Love Story, which hasn't been released in UK cinemas yet, and I'm dying to see that movie. It looks so good, okay? I knew this story is not a love story. I knew this was meant to be a horror. But when I kept seeing those clips, it did a little bit cloud it. I was like, wait, when's the romance gonna happen? And I knew it wasn't gonna. But there are many different versions of Dracula that have come from this book. When you think of, there's been multiple movie adaptations, There's even that cartoon movie thing. What's it? I can't remember what it's called. Hotel Transylvania. There's Dracula in there. Even Young Dracula, that TV show that was on CBBC or something like that. Since this book has been released, and especially in current popular culture, there are many different depictions of Dracula across different genres and for all ages. And all I will say is all of them are scarier than this Dracula. How is this a horror? Please tell me how this is a horror. Dracula is a character for the first initial part of the story where you are following Jonathan Harkness and he is at Dracula's castle. That is the only time. Aside from that, he is basically this phantom, this idea that's barely even there, and he's not scary in the slightest because the second there is any sort of I might get caught, he runs, he flees. He is not scary in the slightest. There's also the fact that all vampires in this, if it is the daytime, they are asleep and cannot wake up. It's not just that they cannot go in the sun, it's that they are asleep and cannot wake up and they are fully vulnerable. And so they are so easy to kill. As long as you know where they will be during the daytime, boom, you've killed them. Sorted, no problem whatsoever. This was not scary in the slightest. Dracula was so disappointing. And also this was really, really repetitive. Oh my god. So repetitive. Don't get me wrong, I did really like the characters, and these men, especially towards Mina, they absolutely adored her in a mostly platonic way. Obviously we have Jonathan, who is her husband, so he does not love her platonically, he is romantically involved with her. But these men, first of all, no such thing as toxic masculinity really in this, because these men were very loyal to each other, very loving to each other, very respectful of each other. Just these men had really genuine, honest friendships, and I loved that. That being said, what was going on about we have man brain and Dracula have child brain, and Mina has man brain even though she is a woman. You started talking like Neanderthals. What about man brain, child brain? They're like, he's evil, so he has child brain. He cannot think things through properly like us men. Men have man brain. It was so weird. What was that? And oh my god, okay. If I thought Camilla was the slog to get through writing wise, oh my god. Okay, listen. I read Little Women in October, and yes, it was obviously written in an older style of English, but it was so easy and palpable to read. Like, it translates to current English really well. Like, you're not struggling to figure out what's going on, okay? That was written 30 years before this book, and I get it, okay? Louisa May Alcott is American, so American English at the time will have been different to British and Irish English, like in this book. But oh my god, this was hard to read. At first, in Jonathan's point of view, it's a false sense of security of thinking it's easy to read, but his journal's written in shorthand, which is so lovely and easy to read for current English speakers. However, once you're in Van Helsing's point of view, oh my god, for a man from the Netherlands, he spoke English to a point where I don't understand it. He was like, no, I'm speaking, it was so convoluted, and like I say, so repetitive. There was just a lot. But I did enjoy it at the same time, so I gave it 3 stars. But it was a long slog, and a lot of talking, and not a lot of doing, and like I say, Dracula was not scary in the slightest. So I wouldn't even call this a horror. It's practically a comedy at this point. It's practically a bromance, actually. No, it's a bromance. Okay. Then I read Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. So I read Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows in 2023. Gave them both 5 stars. I absolutely adored that duology. I thought it was amazing. And this book is essentially the prequel. It's book 0. So it's set like a few centuries before Divine Rivals. So, to be honest, you could read it either way. You could read Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows first and then read this afterwards, or you could read this first and then read the Divine Rivals duology. You could do it either way. Nothing's really spoiled. There's a tiny bit at the end that ties back to Divine Rivals, but I don't think it's like a spoiler per se. It's just a nice little, if you've already read Divine Rivals, it's a nice little nod to the series. This was so good, but I was so deep in the reading slump. It took me 14 whole days to read this book. It is 500 pages. How? Okay, this is what I don't understand. This is how bad this lump was. I read 1,000 pages in 8 days less than it took me to read this book. It is 500. It's half the size of a book, and it took me 8 days more to read. And I did enjoy it, but I do think because it took me so long to read it, I've had to rate it how I think I would have. I did love it. I do think I've rated it 4 stars, and I do think it is a 4 stars. And I've had to kind of rate it as, if I had read this quicker, this would definitely be a 4 stars. And I've had to kind of think about it if I had read it with a working brain. In this book, we're following Matilda and Vincent. Vincent is a human who is the son of a Viscount. I think he's a Viscount. And Matilda, I was going to call Maria there. Matilda is a god, basically. She's one of the divines. And we're following their love story, and it's adorable, it's beautiful, and I love them more than anything. And all I want is for them to be okay. And oh my god, okay. I don't know if people have cried at this book. I haven't seen a lot of like reviews. I've seen people that have enjoyed it, but I haven't seen a lot of in-depth reviews or reading vlog on this book. I don't know if people cried at the romance, but I cried at the daddy-daughter relationship that we have going on in this book, because oh my god, there's something about really cherished parental relationships that just get me every time. Like, I don't know what it is about it, because I mean, I love my mum more than anything. I absolutely adore her. She's the best person in the whole entire world, and I have a really great dad. He's like, but my relationship with my mum is a lot more affectionate and like outwardly loving, whereas me and my dad both have the emotional capacity of a worm, and I do blame him for that. I am like this. I am a good mix of my mum and my dad, but what I get off my dad is my emotional awkwardness, where I can't really, unless the other person is outwardly loving towards me, I can't do that. I'm not like, it has to be equally reciprocated. So my mum is really affectionate, so I can be affectionate with her because I know she receives it well, whereas my dad, like I say, emotional capacity of a worm. And so we're like jokes and bants, and his love language is very much acts of service. So he like, I understand my dad very well, and I know how he shows his love, and he's the best dad ever. But like I say, not the kind of relationship where we're like gonna outwardly tell each other that we really appreciate each other and love each other, because both of us, it's too awkward for that. So in this, it kind of showed a similar relationship where this man is not her dad. They are not biologically related, but she sees him as a father figure, and he, even though you know in his point of view, you know he sees her as his daughter, but she doesn't know that, and that's all she wants, is to be seen as his daughter. And there's this one moment, and I just, oh my god, absolutely broke my heart. And I'm tearing up thinking about it because I just loved it so much. So much. Because like, familial things will get me every time, but also if it's not actually family, but it's someone who like doesn't have that family member and they have like an honorary family member. Oh, it's, yeah, it was beautiful. I loved it. So yeah, this was a 4 stars. Fully recommend this book. And like I say, you could read it with or without Divine Rivals. You could read it first, you could read it afterwards, whichever way, and I would say it works. Okay, then we attempted to get out of a reading slump. That video is on my channel if you want to see it. We were successful, yay, and we can fully thank Miss Elsie Silver for that. I mean, of course, if there's one author who will get you out of a reading slump, it is absolutely Elsie Silver. So I read Wildcard, that means this Rose Hill series is now finished for me. Cannot wait for the next series. Okay, I think we met the man from book 1 of the Emerald Lake series in this book, and if so, I'm intrigued. Colour me intrigued. He seems interesting. Okay, anyway, this book, ex-boyfriend's dad. But age gap is not as bad as Birthday Girl, nor is the scenario in which it's ex-boyfriend's dad. It's so much less messy. It is messy, don't get me wrong, but it just feels less taboo. This does not feel like a taboo ex-boyfriend's dad trope. It just feels like, it feels like fate. It feels like things have just gone slightly wrong. Things are trying them, but they are destined to be together. And oh my god, it was so good. I love Bash. Oh my god. This man heard us say, bring back yearning, and bring it he did. Oh my, this man yearns like no other Elsie Silver man that I have read, and I have read all of her books to date. This man really knows how to yearn. Oh my god. And then we have Clyde, who's like the father figure for both of them in different ways. And he was like the comedic relief the whole time. I loved Clyde. He is amazing. I don't want to give you too much, but basically this book, read it. Read the whole series. I think weirdly enough, so many people love Wild Eyes, and I just didn't love that book. It's the one Elsie Silver book. Actually, no. Because a photo finish was very disappointing to me for what I thought I was going to feel. BLB. I can't remember what I was saying. Yeah. I mean, Chestnut Springs, 5 stars across the board. This series, Wild Eyes, is the only one I didn't love. I did like it still, and I would reread it if I reread the whole series. But it is my least favourite of maybe all of her books, aside from maybe, like I say, a photo finish I didn't love. There was something about Violet that was really annoying, and I was really disappointed because she's the Eaton's sister. I wanted to love her because I love all of the Eatons. Anyway, this was a 5 stars. This is the only 5 stars of the Rose Hill series, but that being said, Wild Card was a 4.5, so no, this one's Wild Card. Wild Side was a 4.5, Wild Card is a 5 stars. This was so good. I was obsessed, I was giggling, I was kicking my feet. Like I said, it's a reading vlog if you want to see different reactions to different parts. I filmed myself reading the whole thing and kept all of my reactions in, so highly recommend this book if you're on the fence. Then I read Between Love and Loathing by Shane Rose, and I rated this one a 4 stars. This book was so much better than Between Commitment and Betrayal. It was just so much less cringy. I don't know if it was just right book, right time. I just thoroughly enjoyed this. So this one we have Dominic Hardy, who, he's not the old. Is he the oldest? I think he might be the oldest of the Hardy brothers. And then we've got Clara, who is the girl from the first book, whose name I've forgotten. I'm going to look this up. Only because it's literally right behind me. Everly. So Everly from the first book, we're following her stepsister, but we're following the nice stepsister, not the horrible one. So this is Clara, who owned the bakery from the first book. So basically in the will that's been left from Clara's stepdad, we already know about this from the first book, because that's the premise of the first book as well. She has basically been left ownership of a bakery that's going to be in this new massive resort in LA, and Dominic is not happy about that. He doesn't want a pink bakery in the middle of his pristine black and white resort, but he has to, it's part of the will. So he is giving her nothing, and she's like, I just want pink, please just let me have the bakery of my dreams, I own it. And she's been kind of bowled over her whole life. She's always been the kind of person to just say, right, whatever's going to be easiest, I'll just do that. She doesn't want to be a burden to people. She's just very, she doesn't put herself first, basically. And Dominic realizes this and is like, I'm not going to give her anything unless she fights for it, because she needs to start fighting for what she wants, basically. So that's the premise. And then we kind of go from there. We start falling in love, there's fake dating. It was really fun. Okay, it was a really fun time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, this one was a 4 stars. And then the book that definitely got me out of my reading slump, we read Indigo Ridge by Daphne Perry on my Kindle. I literally read it in an afternoon. And I loved this book. I've rated it a 4.5 stars. I am so excited to read the rest of the series and see where we go from here. But it was basically, it's a small town romance with a mystery subplot. And it really adds to the story because the romance was easygoing and it had a good flow from meeting to being an established couple. So what made the story more interesting was what was going on with this small town. So our MMC is a rancher, our FMC is a cop, and I really liked that dynamic. I love how she was a cop. It was so good. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to say because there's not a lot I can say without spoiling things, but basically there's been a death and she has this inkling that it's not the alleged suicide it seems to be, and she starts doing some digging and things kind of go from there. Yeah, really good, really interesting. Cannot wait for the rest of the books in this series. It was just so easy to binge. And then the final book I read in November was Tis the Season for Revenge by Morgan Elizabeth. This book, this is the first book in a series. I don't know what the series is actually called, but I read book 1.5, the spin-off to this book specifically, in 2023. It's called Big Nick Energy, and it's following a single mum who we meet in Tis the Season for Revenge post lawsuit that we're seeing in this book. So I already read that, so you don't have to read Tis the Season for Revenge to read that book, but I think I would have appreciated a few things more if I had read it after reading this. That one was really good. I definitely preferred it to Tis the Season for Revenge. I landed on a 3 stars. It was just a little bit cringy at some moments, and the spice was a little bit cringy at some moments. It was very intense. He was very like, you're mine from the get-go, and he was just very like intense for being like a lawyer, and like, yeah, he's a rich man, but he's not like intense billionaire status like Dominic in Between Love and Loathing. He was just very intense for being actually a really easygoing nice guy. So that didn't mesh for me personally, and like I say, some of the spice was slightly cringe, but I was having a fun time reading it. It's basically Legally Blonde coded, where she gets dumped on Halloween by her lawyer boyfriend who just wasn't actually taking her seriously. But instead of like Elle Woods deciding to go to Harvard and prove that she is smart, she decided to fuck his boss, basically. And that is the premise. Yeah, it's not overly Christmassy. It's a good book to read in the lead up to Christmas. It's not super Christmas coded. It's just the end point of when the plot is wanting, like the climax of the plot is Christmas. So, but it's a good book. I would suggest reading it around Christmas time, but it's not overly Christmassy if you don't want a specifically just holiday themed romance, if that makes sense. I mean, we start at Halloween and we end at Christmas, so anywhere in there works. Anyway, those are the 7 books that I read this month. So I'm glad to say we're out of a reading slump. Let's talk about my December TBR, because it is a little overwhelming because I've left things a little bit late. So this is my 25 in 2025 TBR, and as of yesterday, yeah, I have ticked one of these off from the TBR, but we still have 7 left. I'll talk you through those ones. Okay, I've got the 8 of them with me. The one book I have now read as of the other day, but was on my December TBR, I have read it in December, is The Chase by Elle Kennedy. I haven't actually decided on a rating for this yet because it was really good, but it was also really cringe and some moments really annoyed me. So yeah, it was a fun time hockey romance, but I'm glad this is finally ticked off the list. And then I'm currently reading Electra by Jennifer Saint. I'm about 50 pages in so far. And then we've got Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang, Belladonna by Adeline Grace, Butter by Asako Yuzuki, and finally When the Moon Hatched. So that is 8 on the TBR. Then for my goals of the year, so this month will be the final month. I have managed every month so far to read 2 Kindle books, that's on Kindle Unlimited, a month, just to make my subscription worthwhile financially. So I haven't decided which 2 they're going to be yet, but I need to read 2 Kindle books, so that makes it 10. And then I wanted to read a memoir, so for that I've picked, because it's the shortest one I have, the Britney Spears The Woman in Me memoir. So I'll be reading this probably slowly throughout the month. That makes 11. And then I wanted to read 5 classics total. I have 2 left, so Pride and Prejudice will be one of them. I think the second one I'm going to pick is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because I have found a free version on the Apple iBook store, and that one is lovely and short. So again, had to pick something that I could work around, because realistically I'm going to be reading Pride and Prejudice over the course of the month rather than reading it in one go like I normally would for a book. Same as for the Britney Spears memoir. So that makes 12. And then it's a Christmassy book and it's a new release. We have B.K. Borison's Good Spirits. I have to read this year. Okay, I have to. So that makes 13. No. Yeah, So that makes 13. And the 14th book on my December TBR is Forever and Ever by Lucy Score, because it looks wintry and I have now had this for 2 years and still not read it, and I really do want to. It is thick though, so this is not ideal for how many books I have on my December TBR, but I really want to get around to this before the end of the year. Worst comes to worst, I have January or February where it's still winter to read this, but I really want to read this year because I've had it for so long and I need to read it. Okay, this is getting ridiculous now. So yes, that is my 14 book TBR for December. It is very, very optimistic because When the Moon Hatched is quite a thick book. Forever and Ever is quite a thick book. Butter and The Night Circus also look quite thick. And then we have 2 classics in there and an autobiography / biography. I don't know. I think it's biography. Anyway, yeah, that's a lot to read in 1 month. And currently it is the 7th and I've only read and finished 1 book so far. That's not good. Anyway, that being said, I'm gonna go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.